Alrighty, everyone. Welcome to the Beard Signal. I never thought I'd be saying this as an American citizen, but we are living through the soft crowning of a king. And I am currently drinking a very light IPA called Rosé because this needs to be talked about. And this is going to be a long one. Buckle up because we're going to do a nice little deep dive. Crowning a king. Not some Banana Republic thing, not like a Cold War relic, right here, right now, in the United States of America. Now, just this past weekend, I covered the No Kings movement, which sparked by millions of us who believed in the Constitution and not a cult, is more than just a protest, all right? It's a line in the sand. And tonight, I'm going to trace that line back from ICE raids that targeted political enemies to the courts that now serve a king, to deafening silence from a party that was supposed to defend democracy. So with that, this is the Beard Signal. Tonight we're taking the mask off the monarch. So it started out like any protest does, right? With a poster, a hashtag, and a rising sense that something was fundamentally broken. But what happened on June 14th wasn't just another protest. It wasn't just a march. It was the moment millions of Americans across time zones, across ideologies, across generations stood up and said something that we haven't had to say in this country in nearly 250 years. We do not kneel to kings. And the terrifying part is that that slogan isn't theoretical. It didn't feel dramatic. It felt necessary. Because at that point, Trump wasn't campaigning anymore. He wasn't trolling anymore. He was ruling, issuing directives like edicts, protected by a Supreme Court that have effectively handed him a crown. First sip. So let's talk about the numbers. Just the general scale of this thing, all right? So over 2,000 cities held coordinated No Kings rallies. The main protests were deliberately decentralized, not in D.C., where, the federal kenneling and the guard presence was expected. Instead, organizers lit up the map from Philly to Denver to Phoenix to Minneapolis. Minneapolis drew somewhere between like 25,000 and 80,000, depending on who you ask. And the local paper, the police, or the Department of Homeland Security, who had unmarked drones circling overhead. That's a moment that you can't fake, right? A group of Vietnam veterans stood in front of a courthouse holding a massive wooden banner that said, "We fought against kings once. Don't make us do it again." All right? So then every movement has an image. The No Kings had a crown, not a gilded one, mind you, but a hastily sketched drawing, probably tilted, cracked, slashed through with a blood red X, right? That image went viral in hours, all right? Teenagers turned it into a TikTok face paint. Artists graffitied it on plywood covering court buildings. Grandmothers stitched it into armbands. Like, it was pretty darn raw, DIY, and definitely anti-glory, if you know what I mean. So that was kind of the point, though. So it wasn't about replacing Trump with a better ruler. It was about rejecting the idea of rulers altogether. And then came gunshots. Midway through the march in Minneapolis, 2 Democratic state representatives were shot. The gunman tackled by protesters. One of them, a retired Marine, and held until police arrived. According to the affidavit, he screamed, "King Trump forever," as he was pulling the trigger. That's fucked up. No matter how you look at it, that is fucked up. Cable news tried to pivot to mental health within minutes, and we already knew what that was. And in Los Angeles, something else happened, something even more orchestrated. So LA protesters marched peacefully through Boyle Heights, downtown, and Echo Park, and mostly college students, teachers, and nurses. But they were when they neared the whole ICE processing center downtown, a guard line formed. And behind it, Marines. 700 of them. This wasn't riot gear. This wasn't crowd control. It was a war formation. If you've ever worked with anyone in the military, you know what the fuck you saw. All right? I have enough friends in the military. I have enough friends to know what the fuck that was. And when a journalist asked why the Marines were deployed on American soil, the Pentagon gave a one-line answer: to support domestic order. That is the language of dictators. And all this was happening. Fox News cut to a drone shot of a few protesters shaking a fence in Chicago, spinning it into, Democratic crime wave. Meanwhile, MSNBC's trying to keep up, airing one commercial break every 3 minutes, scared to let the screen stay black for even a second, all right? CNN, they played both sides. Is it a passionate protest or dangerous unrest, they asked, while protesters were literally being kettled in New York. The screen was cracked. The story was fractured. But on the ground, the people were clear. The movement wasn't about a party. And it wasn't even entirely about Trump, frankly. But it was about a line being crossed, a shift from representative democracy to executive dominance. People brought signs that said things like Constitution over cult, presidency is not a throne. And my personal favorite one was 1776 X 2025. That last one, that one really stuck, all right? The 1776 X 2025 became code, a reference, a warning, a prayer, basically. Here's the turning point. This protest wasn't meant with debate. It wasn't met with policy. It was met with force. Protesters didn't throw bricks. They didn't burn buildings. They sang. They held candles. They showed up. And for that, they got ICE vans. They got helicopters. They got Marines. That's when we knew this wasn't just a protest. It was the last alarm bell before the lights went out. And that's when retaliation began. Not through Twitter rants, but through midnight raids, legal warfare, and something even darker. Let's talk about what came next, all right? Let's just talk about for a second Trump's late night Truth Social ICE order, the latest mass deportation program in his entire jolt to fuck over U.S. history, targeting only blue cities, mind you. So it wasn't just a tweet, and it wasn't just a policy. It was a declaration of war on cities, communities, and on dissent itself. It came in at about 12:07 a.m. Under the cover of night and chaos, he posted to Truth Social: time to drain the infestation in New York, Chicago, and LA. ICE will launch the largest mass deportation program in American history. These cities are traitor zones. We will restore order. Let's break that down. And I'm paraphrasing this, but those are words that he actually used: infestation, traitor zones, and restore order. This isn't immigration language. This is military occupation language. The kind used to justify crackdowns in countries we once invaded for doing the same. All right? Trump didn't order ICE into sanctuary cities across the board. He didn't crack down in Phoenix or Tampa or Dallas. Those are sanctuary cities too. Every city he named, New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles, have one thing and one thing alone in common. They were epicenters of the No Kings protests just days earlier. They also had something else in common. And I bet you could guess this in a mile away, right? Democratic mayors, diverse populations, immigrant communities with political power. It wasn't law enforcement. It was revenge. All right? If this was about security, ICE would be in red states too. But it's not about security. It's about silencing political enemies with zip ties. Trump's own ICE agency was $1 billion over budget before these raids began. Congress hadn't even approved new funds, but a DHS whistleblower said that the operation's costs are being funneled through emergency FEMA money, disaster release reserves, and even some leftover COVID response funds from 2020. Meanwhile, schools, housing programs, and infrastructure grants are being frozen or reassessed in target cities. Coincidence? Or is this economic blackmail wrapped in enforcement theater? This is fascism with a fiscal plan. Punish your enemies, starve their cities, and blame the chaos on them. They use fear as a weapon. And there's a ground level fallout happening, all right? In East LA, Home Depot saw a 9% drop in foot traffic the day the raid started. Local clinics basically report patients canceling prenatal and dialysis appointments. Elementary school attendance in parts of Queens saw a drop of 42% within the last 3 days. These aren't criminals being taken off the streets, as he put out there. All right, parents, nurses, janitors, children, all that pay taxes to help red states, mind you, because this goes into a big pot most of the time, either state pots or federal pots, and red states mooch off that. Hardcore. They're going to mooch off it. While ICE raids homes in the Bronx, they were specially told to avoid farms, hotels, and country clubs in red counties. Because apparently, undocumented labor is only a crime when it's, votes blue. Well, I shouldn't say it votes blue, but in the area votes blue. Because you can't legally vote if you're not a citizen. That's a crime. And if you do a crime, I'm fine getting the crime humans out. That's fine. As a matter of fact, more of the crime is actually done by locals. I think we should do something about that too, but, whatever. Now, when Trump said he drained the swamp, most people thought he meant rooting out corruption. But what he really meant was replacing anyone who didn't kneel. Let's just be blunt, all right? What's happening now isn't politics. It's a purge, surgically targeted, institutionally protected, and broadcast like a goddamn reality show. It's just 3 weeks. 12 sitting state legislators, all Democrats, had been arrested or indicted on vague charges of corruption, election tampering, or seditious conspiracy. Funny, because none of it will stick because it doesn't hold up, unlike the people that are actually, charged with that back from 2020, January 6th. None of them have prior convictions. Most of them were vocal critics of ICE raids and the National Guard deployments, and all of them were either part of or supportive of the No Kings movement. All right? In Illinois, Representative Lisa Mendez was cuffed in her driveway, barefoot, still in pajamas, in front of her children. Arizona, State Senator Aaliyah Grant, was arrested for misuse of state funds. Her crime? Flying to D.C. to meet with federal legal aid groups to protect immigrant rights. Yeah, sounds like real misuse of funds, right? In New York, Assemblyman David Chow was seized after voting to defund the NYPD cooperation with ICE. His district office raided. His emails leaked by far-right bloggers within hours. This isn't law enforcement. It's a political decapitation with handcuffs. All right? So, you might be asking, how is this happening? How? Well, Trump's Justice Department created a brand new division under the Domestic Subversion Task Force, a unit born from the ashes of the Patriot Act, now reanimated as a tool to suppress domestic dissent. Not that it's, sacred in the frickin' Constitution. Hell no. We need something to crack down on that. In other words, if you helped organize a peaceful protest, if you fundraise for a legal defense, if you retweet a banned account, you are now a person of interest. And here's the real kicker. The same Supreme Court that expanded presidential immunity last term is poised to greenlight this purge as protected official act. We've crossed the Rubicon here, all right? Justice now bends to the whims of a man who signs the appointments. And frankly, governors are next, all right? California's Gavin Newsom is under investigation for obstruction of federal operations. New York's Kathy Hochul received a sealed subpoena. Illinois Governor Christine Walker was asked to appear before a national integrity panel run by Trump-appointed judges, none of whom have criminal law experience, mind you. This is McCarthyism with a motorcade. It's insane. But the purge isn't just happening in the shadows. It's being spun, and sold. All right? OANN's newest special is titled Liberal Lies, How the Deep State Turned Blue Cities into War Zones. Newsmax's anchor Brad Fulton called the arrests the natural result of a cleaning house. Fox News ran a segment that was titled, "These aren't political prisoners, they're criminals who got caught." And here's the really chilling part. Even moderates are beginning to believe it. Excuse me. Polling shows that 44% of Republicans now believe at least some Democratic lawmakers are involved in domestic conspiracy to undermine Trump's presidency. Why? Because when you see enough people being jailed and show enough mugshots, people stop asking why. They just assume you were guilty. Unless it's Donald Trump, of course, and the people that worked with him. They're not just erasing dissent, they're making us believe that dissent was criminal in the first place, which it's not, mind you. But that doesn't matter. That's not part of the narrative. It's all about the narrative. It's all about holding the news cycle and keeping your mind away from 14 million people that are going to be ripped away from healthcare and food ripped away from children. Billions of dollars going to the rich. That's what this is. It's a way to counter that news cycle and go against the whole, Trump and Elon fallout. But we are no longer in the realm of checks and balances here. All right, Congress is stacked with Trump loyalists who cheer these actions as justice. The courts are just filled with judges from Project 2025 shortlist. I did an entire episode on that. And the DOJ is run by hand-picked loyalists who once called Trump's first impeachment a political lynching. Even the Office of the Inspector General, the internal watchdog for the DOJ, is stripped of independence by executive order last month. No review, no oversight, no accountability. And if you are waiting for the press to save us, remember, 2 reporters are in custody under suspicion of collaborating with enemy agenda. Literally, a quote from why they're being held. This is not due process. It is not due punishment dealt by a king pretending to be a freaking president. And you want some history? Let's talk history. Nixon had an enemies list. McCarthy had a blacklist. Trump has federal government, propaganda machine, and a judiciary willing to bless it all. I mean, Stalin's Moscow just got modernized with this. It's Orban's Hungary on steroids. Feel me? So what happens next? What happens to the city council member who speaks at a rally? To the teacher who organizes a walkout? To the pastor who lies and goes out and hides immigrant family in the church basement? If Trump's American can start jailing lawmakers for dissent, what chance does a private citizen have? The message is clear. Stand up and you'll be stomped. Fight back and you'll be disappeared. And it has a chilling effect. Even now, I've spoken to 3 elected Democrats, off the record, who have said to me outright they are afraid to speak publicly, not because they don't care, but because they have kids, they have mortgages. They've seen what happens to the people that speak too loudly. Me, I want to run for office to literally say, fuck this shit. Because this isn't democracy. It's a government by fear. And this is a slippery slope. Difference is we're not at the top of the slippery slope. We've already hit the bottom, and we're just pretending that we haven't. The presidency was never meant to be sacred. It was supposed to be limited, held in check by a Congress, reviewed by courts, and answerable to the people. That's what the founders built. But what Trump has done is turned the presidency into a throne and the Constitution into a doormat. And this isn't accidental. It's by design. And Project 2025, which they avowed they were not part of. Oh, no, that's not what's happening. No, it's just, I know nothing about it, blah, blah, blah. Following it to the letter. That's exactly what this is doing. 1,000%. Most of those people are in his cabinet, the people that wrote it. So you can't even say, like, oh, no, not really. No, come on. Wake the fuck up. And let me just talk you through how Donald Trump has become America's first imperial president and how every single institution meant to stop him chose not to. All right? Let's just start with the Supreme Court. So in June, just months into Trump's second term, they handed down a 6-3 ruling that changed everything. All right? They ruled that presidents are immune from prosecution for core official acts taken while in office. And here's the dangerous part. So they let Trump define what counts as core. All right? So if Trump orders DOJ to arrest a rival, immune. Orders ICE to sweep cities that didn't vote for him, immune. Declare martial law in a swing state to, secure order. You guessed it, immune. It's not oversight. It's coronation. The only thing that is separating a president from a dictator used to be the law. Now, It's just restraint, and Trump has none. None. Literally none. So let's talk about the manual behind it, which is Project 2025. Again, if you don't know what that is, which I feel like you're living under a rock, because when polled, no one across the board liked 2025 except for maybe 20% of GOP humans, which are already part of his base anyway. So anything he says, like, yeah, that's good, they'll like it. But it was written by the Heritage Foundation and distributed to GOP insiders. Project 2025 is a 900-page playbook that outlines exactly how to reshape the federal government into a weapon of one-man rule. Just so you know, hold on, I got this last year. This is it. This thick motherfucker is it. And I wish I was kidding when I say I've started to highlight in this thing. I have dog ears throughout it, just to say, like, the things that are the worst, the absolute worst in this. And again, play by play by play by play. And here's one of the main things it does. All right. Schedule F revival. All right. This reclassifies tens of thousands of federal workers as at-will employees, meaning that Trump can fire anyone who disagrees with him. In his first 90 days back, 11,000 people were purged, exactly as is written in here. Exactly as written here. Another one, DOJ control. All right, merges federal law enforcement directly under executive authority. No independence, no oversight whatsoever. There also, in the back of that part, is ICE and CBP merger, all right? Both placed under a new federal security directive, reportedly reporting directly to the White House security czar. All right, that is in here. Dismantling departments like the Department of Education, gutted. The EPA, defunded. IRS, reorganized to prioritize loyalty over legacy structure. All right, this isn't theory. It's happening. It's in here, and you fuckers didn't listen. So you might be asking, what about Congress? The branch that's supposed to hold him accountable? Forget it. The Speaker of the House, Steve Scalise, has openly said that the Congress serves at the pleasure of the American mandate. Translated, they serve Trump. All right? The Senate Judiciary Committee is chaired by MAGA loyalists who once said that Trump is ordained by God to rule righteously. Republican members of Congress now meet in private every Tuesday within the White House to coordinate legal and legislative strategy, not as co-equal branches, but as cohorts to the throne. All right? They're the little courtiers here, doing the bidding of Trump. The budget process has been replaced with executive directives. All right? Committee subpoenas are ignored. The filibuster, dead. Only when Trump wants it to be. Congress isn't a check anymore. It's a standing ovation. Then, one thing that has really transformed Trump from president to emperor is the culture change. All right? This isn't just about institutions, it's about attitudes. And Trump isn't viewed as a politician by his base anymore. He's literally viewed as a savior, the chosen one, the hammer, the king, who will set things right. They don't want compromise, they want conquest. They don't want democracy, they want dominance. And when power is sacred, any challenge to it is treason. We didn't just crown a king. We trained the kingdom to kneel. And that's exactly the point. In his first 100 days back, Trump signed 79 executive orders, more than any other president since FDR. But these weren't boring bureaucratic directives, all right? They were all power grabs. Executive Order 2025-14, Freedom Cities Priority Initiative. This gives Trump the right to override state zoning laws in undesirable urban zones, all right? Executive Order 22, Unified Response Operations. This creates a national task force made up of ICE, FBI, and Homeland Security that answers only to, you guessed it, the president. Now, Executive Order 33, Anti-Insurrection Accountability Framework. This lets the GOJ label protest groups as domestic insurgencies with no judicial review. These aren't orders, they're decrees, and they're being carried, and they carry the weight of a law until someone stops him. But who is left to stop him? All right? Let's just go back, not to 1776, but to 1851, all right? Louis Napoleon Bonaparte, nephew of Napoleon, was elected president of France. He spent 3 years consolidating power, firing judges, flooding newspapers, and using national security to justify roundups of dissenters. He declared himself Emperor of the French in 1852. And he was popular. He was still popular. He was still legal and still elected, just like Trump. So this isn't new. It's just America now. And it makes it more dangerous because the world looks at us as the blueprint. And the blueprint is on fire. The presidency was designed to be 1/3 of the government. But today, there's only one branch that matters. Congress cheers him, courts protect him, governors fear him, and the military obeys him. Checks and balances? Gone. You know, the one who said, it could never happen here. Where's that person? Where's that person? They're too busy buying limited edition MAGA King belt buckles to notice that the Constitution is literally being bled out. And we now have not a democracy. It's a democracy-shaped container, but it's filled with autocracy, wrapped in flags, and marketed as patriotism subscription box. The rise of imperial presidency isn't some far-off warning, all right? It's here, it's happening, and if we don't call it what it is, we'll be living under a king that's pretending to be a president. And with a court that's too afraid to correct him and a country too distracted to care. We tend to think of fascism as something that comes wrapped in jackboots, marching in lockstep, and backed by military tanks and propaganda posters. But in America, fascism isn't wearing a uniform. It's wearing a trucker hat, a 2A t-shirt, and a discount code for bulk ammo. The GOP doesn't just embrace authoritarianism, they branded it. They packaged it. And now they're making a killing selling it to their base. All right, let's just start with the aesthetics, all right? MAGA King 2025 hats, sold out in 6 hours. The gilded cross necklace engraved with anointed by God, gone, sold out. Trump stores executive action collector coin sets, one for every major decree he signed. It comes with a mini golden crown and a quote, "We don't follow orders, we give them." This isn't just a grift. This is myth-making. Trump is becoming a symbol, not of policy, not of politics, but of power, raw, unchecked, and divinely blessed in the eyes of these really dumb fucks. And Trump isn't branded red, white, and blue anymore. It's black, gold, and vengeful. Evangelical leaders are calling Trump, God's instrument of justice. Pastor Robert Jeffries, God sent Moses to part the sea. He sent Trump to part the swamp. Franklin Graham said, "This is a holy war, and Trump is our general." Churches in Arizona are flying both American flags and Trump's face on a lion's body, next to verses from Revelation. This isn't Christianity. It's Christian nationalism, where Jesus is optional, but Trump is mandatory. We stopped worshiping the carpenter and started bowing to the construction mogul. Prove me wrong. Then think of Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk and the Daily Wire crowd. They're not pundits anymore. They're merch-pushing megachurches of the MAGA empire. You can't subscribe to a Patriot survival box delivered with a monthly canned food, a Trump devotional, and concealed carry holster. You can get your Reclaim Your Throne course online, teaching young men how to embrace domination over women, cities, and their political enemies. It's fascism rebranded as life coaching. All right? Mussolini would have killed for this level of micro-targeting. It's hilarious to think that any of this is okay by today's standards or any standards. And we're in an era of vibe-based authoritarianism. Forget the whole brown shirts and secret police, all right? This version comes with memes, music, and motivational quotes. Instead of strength through unity, we get "don't tread on me, or else." Instead of salutes, it's TikTok skits of men in Oakleys talking about cleansing weak liberal soy. All right? And the thing is, it works. For these people, it works because it feels good, because it's emotional, not intellectual. Because it tells people who feel powerless, you're not the problem, the libs are. And Trump will fix it. Trump only can fix it. And it doesn't require reading. It doesn't require critical thinking. It only requires faith in the man, the merch, and the myth. It's not a campaign. It's a cosplay kingdom, and every purchase is a pledge of allegiance. And the scariest thing about American fascism, it doesn't look foreign. It looks familiar. It looks like your neighbor. It looks like your cousin's Facebook. It looks like someone who just, trying to take their country back. And once fascism becomes a vibe, you don't just lose your country. You lose the language to explain how it happened. So let's just be honest here. While Trump was building his empire, the Democrats were building a PowerPoint. While Trump launches ICE raids, militarized cities, and jailed political enemies, the Democratic leadership held a press conference. And while MAGA loyalists are handing out crown-shaped label pins, the DNC just sent out another email asking for $3 to remind you to vote blue in the next 2 years. This is not a party preparing to stop a king. It's a party that is still obsessing with Robert's Rules of Order, while the other side brings a sledgehammer to the table. And if you never read Robert's Rule of Order, by the way, you really should. It's very simple. It's not even a long book. It's just educate yourselves for Christ's sake. I know you're probably listening to this as a podcast or even watching this on YouTube, but the bottom line, just educate yourself. Read a book. I have about 6,000 books out there, and I've read every single one of them. I have about 2,000 that I still want to read. I ran out of room on 27 shelves. I started putting some of them in the back here and over here on the side, just because I'm running out of room for my books. But what pisses me off about all this is, what do we get from the leadership, right? Pelosi sits there and says things like, concerned and deeply un-American. Schumer says, we'll explore appropriate legislative response. Hakeem Jeffries, we must appeal to the better angels of our nature. Appeal to angels? There are ICE raids in the streets, Marines in Los Angeles, and the Supreme Court just handed Trump a golden ticket dipped in blood. Appealing to angels won't stop a dictator. A movement will. And all these people still think that they're back in 2016 are off their rockers at this point. You can't fix a knife wound with a strongly worded opinion, all right? You got to get to the problem, stop the bleeding. And the Judiciary Committee just announced hearings, but Trump's allies are already stonewalling. His DOJ laughed at subpoenas, and the media treats it like it's all just another season of congressional theater. Meanwhile, the base, the actual voters, are begging for a plan. Not a statement, not a soundbite, a plan. What's the strategy, Democrats? Are you even playing the same game? And the bottom line is you're not. Which is why I want to run, because you're fucking it up over and over and over again, year after year after year. No wonder the Democratic base is left, because you literally don't know what the fuck you're doing. But the main question is, why the hesitation? Because they're terrified of being called radicals, terrified of losing moderates, terrified of playing into the left is unhinged narrative. But here's the thing. Trump already labeled you the enemy. All right? He's already coming for your cities, your schools, your voters, your candidates. So what exactly are you trying to preserve? The center isn't holding, and the left is still arguing over how to phrase the memo. Every Democrat that puts out a statement ends the same way. We must restore our institutions. But restore to what exactly? To a Senate that confirmed Barrett in 27 days but couldn't pass a voting rights in 7 years? To a media ecosystem where truth dies in the comment section? To a Supreme Court that believes that presidents are above the law? None of this is normal to return to. There's only now and what we choose to do with it. And the whole thing that no one, and I swear no one on the left here is even recognizing, is that the entire reason that Trump even got into the place in the first place is because people in the base across the spectrum don't want normal anymore. They don't want, restored institutions that you think they want. They want everything to work for them. They built their entire brand over being, their actual policies are populist, but they come in with the robes and the things and everything to make you think, oh my God, this guy knows me, gets me. Oh, I want to give him my vote. And yet nothing they do helps the populace. Democrats actually do things that try and help. They still have some bullshit in their closets, but at least they do the right things, but they can't market themselves for shit. And the longer the Democrats hesitate, the more ground that Trump gains. Not just electorally, but culturally and legally and psychologically. All right? And when history looks back, the question won't be why didn't Trump stop himself? It'll be why didn't anyone else? You don't negotiate with authoritarianism, you confront it or you lose. It's really that simple. All right, it's one thing to lose your democracy. It's another thing to watch the world witness it in real time and shake their heads like they've seen it all before, because they have. What's happening in America in 2025, it's not a shock to the rest of the world, it's familiar. It's like repeating a tragic series that always ends the same way, with rights revoked, critics jailed, and power clutched by a dying god. Only the people that are still here saying, can't happen. No, it's bad, but it's not going to get better. No, it's not. It's not. All right? We're the only people, not me personally, but the only people that still say it can't happen here. Everyone else is watching it happen. All right? Le Monde France, basically how America became the new Turkey. There's an entire article about that. Der Spiegel? Spiegel? Spiegel. It's a German one. Basically said that the Republic fades and the United States drifts into managed autocracy. The UK's Guardian, King Trump, America has fallen into constitutional crisis. International headlines don't mince words, all right? Foreign correspondents are using terms American anchors won't. Regime, dictator, coup by lawfare. You know, Al Jazeera ran an op-ed titled How America Became the Authoritarian Empire It Always Feared. And authoritarians are taking notes. They're cheering outright. Viktor Orban praised Trump's ICE raids as an inspiration for all sovereign nations. Putin congratulated Trump on order restoring discipline. Bolsonaro basically called Trump proof that patriots will always rise again. But the thing is, they're not really cheering. They're mimicking. Trumpism isn't just a contagion. It's now a global export. And it failed in a lot of other countries recently, but there's some where it's actually grabbing hold. And what our allies are saying and doing proves that. Canada's parliament just opened a debate on a new emergency asylum category for American journalists and academics. Frankly, I might need to end up going to Canada if this keeps up the way it is. NATO leadership is preparing scenarios where the U.S. refuses to intervene globally or turns its military inward. The World Cup 2026 tickets into international fans dropped 18% after LA troop deployments. All right? The land of the free is now a travel warning with nukes. And once American used to export democracy, but now it exports conspiracy theories, cable news militarism, and TikTok fascism in 60 seconds or less. The beacon went out and no one replaced the bulb. If America, the model, can collapse into authoritarianism with legal cover and popular support, what hope does anyone else have? Who do they call now? When the beacon goes out, like, who do they call? I mean, and here's the bottom line. We're 44 minutes into this thing right now. If you made it this far, which means you're angry, good. But anger is a matchstick. It burns hot and it burns fast. We need now isn't just heat, it's light. And that means strategy. All right? Indivisible. Local power. No claims anywhere. All right? The No King's Day of Action, 1,500 phone banks, 200 town halls, voter drives. Run for something. 800 new down ballot candidates. I'm one of them. Hi, how you doing? This state's project had $20 million to flip state chambers in Michigan, PA, and Arizona. Change isn't national, it's local, and it's you. All right? Portland in 1989, workers and strikes meant the end of one-party rule. Sorry, Poland I meant. Portland, Poland. Chile, 1988. The No campaign beat Pinochet. Ukraine, art, protests, and mass actions. Still standing. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be present, all right? So what can you do this week? School board Tuesdays. Show up. Stop theocrats early. Courts watch, all right? Deter abuse by holding people in the room. Just being in the room deters abuse. Microdonate. $10 a month to a local candidate can flip an election. And yes, run for something. You're probably more qualified than half the people in office right now, frankly. And you, if you got this far, you have a conscience. Use it. We don't need more viral clips. We need civic stamina. We need discipline. Hope isn't a vibe, it's a skill. You train it, you wield it. All right? Trump may have crowned himself. The GOP may have handed him the robe. But the only crown that holds power is the crown that we bow to, and we won't. We won't kneel. We vote. We organize. We resist. Peacefully. And remember, power was never his. It was ours. At the end of the day, it's not about the deportations. It's not about borders. It's about punishing cities who stand up. ICE raids are Trump's way of saying, you don't get to protest me, you don't get to sue me, you don't even get to hide. It's mafia tactics scaled to federal reach. Because when Trump looks at New York City, Chicago, and LA, he doesn't see cities. He sees enemies, traitors, and targets. And now, he has the badge, the budget, and the legal shield to act. All right? It's not immigration enforcement, it's vengeance, wrapped in bureaucracy, armed with state power. And if it sounds like something out of a dystopian novel, remember, this is not fiction. It's happening right now in your country. And the question is, what the hell are you going to do about it? All right? And for a moment here, let's just play a little game.
You want to play a game?
Sorry, that's really bad. Ooh, got this feeling inside my bones. Let's play a game. Let's reverse the roles. If a Democrat, say Biden, Harris, or maybe even Newsom, did even half of what Trump has done this year, if they had deployed ICE to raid a red city like Tulsa or Birmingham or Pensacola, if they ordered the arrest of Republican governors who disagree with them, or sent Marines into Texas to suppress an anti-federal protest, would the GOP respect the rule of law? Hold hearings and issue polite press releases? Wait for the courts to sort it out? Hell no. They would burn down the damn Capitol again. All right? Hypocrisy is a feature. And the right spent the Obama years calling him a dictator for using executive orders, even though he issued fewer than Bush or Reagan. And they call Biden a tyrant for mandating masks in a pandemic. All right? They even said Michelle Obama's health lunch program was government overreach. But Trump can jail political opponents, order mass ICE sweeps in opposition cities, declare near total immunity from prosecution, and they cheer, they chant, they worship. To them, tyranny isn't a crime, it's the context. And they only hate power when they're not the ones holding it. So if Harris ordered the arrest of Ron DeSantis, if Biden froze Fox News' bank accounts for financial irregularities, or if Gavin Newsom federalized the National Guard in Texas, we wouldn't be debating on this podcast. We'd be watching coordinated armed uprisings in the streets. The right wouldn't hold rallies, they'd hold sieges. And here's the scary part. They're prepared for it. They've trained for it. They fantasize about it. And it's hypocrisy. The double standard is strategic. It's deliberate tactic. And it creates a system where only one side is ever allowed to wield power and the other side is always illegitimate by default. If Democrats use power, it's tyranny. But if Republicans do it, it's justice. It's not just a double standard. That's a dictatorship waiting to happen. And the reason it matters is because in a two-party system, if only one party believes in democracy, you don't have a democracy. You have a game of chicken with the Constitution, and the Democrats, they're still playing with turn signals. So when people say both sides are the same, I laugh heavily because only one side is trying to crown a king and the other side is too scared to say it out loud. And here's another thing that you really need to consider here. There's a pattern so obvious, and it should be in every civics class. Every accusation the GOP throws at Democrats, it's not an observation, it's a confession. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. All right? I'll break it down for you real quick. All right? So The Hunter Biden hysteria situation, right? They cried over Hunter Biden's laptop, accusing the Bidens of foreign corruption. Meanwhile, Jared Kushner took $2 billion from the Saudis 2 months after leaving the White House. Trump's own two sons inked international deals while he was still in office. Ivanka scored Chinese trademarks while still sitting at state dinners. Projection? Try full-blown substitution. They scream nepotism while laundering foreign cash through Mar-a-Lago. All right, let's their personal favorite one, weaponizing government. Republicans love to warn us about the weaponization of the DOJ. Cool story, except Trump's Attorney General Bill Barr intervened in Trump's ally Roger Stone's sentencing, tried to drop the case against Michael Flynn, used tear gas on peaceful protesters so Trump could wave a Bible upside down in front of a church. Now in 2025, the DOJ is jailing governors, being Democratic strongholds, targeting political critics with ICE. And they still have the nerve to say the Democrats abuse power? When they say witch hunt, just ask, how many witches have they burned lately? How many witches? I have curiosity. And my personal favorite one, the stolen election obsession. They screamed over and over that the 2020 election was stolen. But here's the question. Who tried to submit fake electors? Who pressured secretaries to find votes? Overturn the Capitol with a violent coup attempt? They claim to be protecting elections while passing laws that purge voter rolls, restrict ballot access, gerrymander black and brown districts into oblivion. They're not mad at that the election was stolen. They're mad that they couldn't steal it themselves. They wanted to steal it. They tried to steal it, and they couldn't. That's what they're mad about. And then they accuse the left of what they're doing. They accuse teachers of indoctrinating while banning books and demanding state-approved history. That's the definition of indoctrination, you dumb fucks. They accuse LGBTQ communities of grooming while their party harbors actual predators. How many pictures of Trump with Epstein do you need to see before you realize he's part of it, you dumb fucks? Then they accuse immigrants of crime while turning a blind eye to white supremacist domestic terrorism. Every time they say, look at what they're doing, it's a psychological game of misdirection. It's hypocrisy, it's theater, misdirection, gaslighting as governance. And there's a reason why this pattern is so freaking dangerous, because once a political movement becomes incapable of self-awareness, and once its followers accept only projection as truth, you no longer live in a democracy. You live in a cult of accusation where reality is defined by who shouted it first. You can't reason with someone who thinks their guilt is your crime. And so when Trump or any GOP leader opens their mouth and accuses someone of something, just stop and write it down. Because I guarantee you, 99.999999999% of the time, they're just telling you what they did and hoping that you're too tired, too distracted, or too polite to say it out loud. They confess every single day. You just need to listen. So this has been a long one. I got very heated. Still have a quarter of my beer left. And yes, it's pink. And yes, it has a cat on it with rosé appearing to be tattooed into its forehead. It tastes like kombucha. This has been the Beard Signal. And if you're still with me, if you're not asleep, know that it's okay to know that what you're seeing with your own eyes is actually happening. You're not a subject. You're a citizen. Don't kneel to crowns. Don't bow to fear. We don't trade freedoms for flags or crosses for crowns. We stand and we signal until the republic rises again. Stay safe out there.